Hello and welcome to Twerk, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing people, the fantastic jobs they do, and the paths that led them to where they are today. I'm here today with Lucy. Hi Lucy.
Hello.
Could you tell the listener what it is you do for a living?
I own and run the Elm Hill Craft Shop in Norwich, in Elm Hill, and I also write and illustrate children's picture books.
Amazing. So many questions. But as always, we're going to track back. We're going to talk about little Lucy.
Okay.
So what was little Lucy like? Having already met your mum,
yes.
It was amazing. So what was little Lucy like? What were you into?
Little Lucy, I was very shy actually when I was little. I'm much less so now.
Yeah.
But I was very quiet and I hid myself away a bit. I did lots of drawing when I was little.
Absolutely. If you hadn't said that to me, I'd have been really upset.
So my family was very creative. My dad, a sculptor, and I'm the youngest of four, and we all ended up doing quite creative things. So I think there was a lot of encouragement. In fact, I was encouraged to do art more than I was encouraged to think about getting any sort of job that paid any proper money. So there wasn't a lot of kind of my friends were all being told, you need to get a proper job, and my parents were saying just do some colouring in. It was a bit odd.
And now I love your mum even more.
So there was a lot of emphasis put on creativity. Which was great. I then as I grew up, obviously I went on and did A-level art, and then I went to do foundation course in Norwich Art College, and then I went to Brighton and did a painting degree. What I would say that's interesting, even from that start, was obviously that creativity was wonderful, but it did leave me quite stuck about what I was going to actually do to make a living.
Make a living, yes.
So it gave me this opportunity to explore and have fun and paint and all that stuff. But actually reality dawns, doesn't it? I'd left uni, I'd got a painting degree, and I was like, oh, now what?
Now what? And also, what did they say to you at uni in terms of what were your career suggestions?
There wasn't much at art college. It was a lot of, just go on and be a painter or be a sculptor.
Yeah.
But actually, I realised pretty quickly that was going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
And so then I did a very weird. I came back to Norwich. I felt very stuck then, and I think I felt quite. I missed my home, and so I came straight back to Norwich, and I did a lot of working in cafes, making sandwiches.
Brilliant.
And all my friends went off to London and sort of worked for the BBC and Channel 4, and I thought, oh God, here I am, still walking down Gentleman's Walk, making tuna sandwiches for people's lunch. And that was a period of time, I think, where I felt very, very stuck about...
Well, or just didn't know,
where I was going to go and what.
So this is like 21, 22?
Yeah, 21, 22. And then I think I did that for quite a long time, actually, being very unsure and lacking in confidence about what my abilities were. Then I did a touch typing course.
But were you still painting and stuff?
I was, but I think I was quite disillusioned because I think I felt that I didn't know how to do that, really.
Yeah.
And some people do go on and have a degree, a career in art. It's quite a difficult thing to do.
Because I did tell you who I did also pod. She is a Southwood maven, but she lives in London. Nicola. She is an art buyer and an art dealer, and as part of that career write-up, we were talking about. I remember when we were writing. I've got a lady that helps me research it, and we were thinking about how do you get into that, and all the different careers you might have. And it was things like, obviously, you can go and be an artist, or you can also go and work for galleries, can't you?
Yeah.
Like like preserving works, that kind of stuff.
There are avenues.
But hardly any jobs.
But a lot of them would require further training. For a while, I thought I'd quite like to do that. And I've forgotten the name of it, where you touch up old paintings and you.
I can't remember. Yeah,
archiving of stuff.
Yeah,
but again, that would have been a whole new set of skills I'd need to learn. So that would have been back to college.
So you've got this. You've almost got the natural skill for it, but you almost needed the qualification or the certain. So it's quite nuanced, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I'm not sure that I was terribly employable. I mean, I had those. I had those art skills, but I didn't have any other skills. I realised, I didn't know how to even use a computer. I'd never. I was just a sort of way with the fairies. So that's when I did this Pitman touch typing course, which was hilarious because I was suddenly sitting in a room typing the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog over and over again. So I learned to touch type really fast, and I loved that. And then I tried to get jobs in offices, in sort of perhaps art publishing places, but there's not a lot around. I was in Norwich. Norwich isn't a great place to
Well, it is
launch.
now, whereas I'm now finding it's like the hub of, I've potted so many, I totally need to move to Norwich.
Yeah.
This is the hub of where all the badass women are. I know!
Yeah, there was not a lot of creative opportunity and certainly not sort of industry-based stuff. So I did end up getting a job for an art publishing company, but it sold sporting prints, which wasn't really my, was a bit niche. But I did, that was the closest I got. So I think for a long, long time I am the perfect example of that person who left uni and just fannied about for a long time. Yeah. Then I met my husband, which was handy because then I had kids and I thought, I don't need to worry about this anymore. Yeah. Which I think was a weird,
And what did or does your husband do?
He is a very efficient and capable businessman.
Is he?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's all the things that I am not. I mean, in terms
you're
of
all the things he's not.
Exactly.
Probably.
We're very, very different people, but I think that's probably why in the end it sort of works. Really, he's incredibly practical, capable. He's run lots of businesses and they're very successful. So it's interesting. We are polar opposite people, really. Yeah. But so I met him, had my children, and was still thinking, what the hell am I going to do? As my kids got older, I began to feel like there was a real gap for me, which I think happens to lots of women, doesn't it? Your children go to school,
kids as well,
and you think, now what am I going to do? So then I started then that's when I think I started to feel a bit more focused about and a bit more confident in myself. I think having been a mum for a bit
and multitasked and everything else.
I think
you've kept 3 humans alive.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, it can't be too bad.
They're not dead, are they?
Yeah. Exactly.
There is a lot to say about that.
I've got more going for me than I thought. So that led me to some very weird things, which I now look back on. I think, what was I thinking? So the first one was I set up a vintage crockery hire company, which I collected, I can't tell you how much vintage crockery and vintage games and things, and I rented them to weddings.
Amazing.
Because there was a huge, it was
I know someone that does that even now.
Yeah, it was very particular, and I don't quite know what led me to that, but I love old things and I love old crockery. So I started to collect all these tea sets. Anyway, that was actually quite successful. So I had this little business going called Pretty Vintage, and I got a website built, and I suddenly thought, this is it, I've arrived. I did that for a little while, and it was a lot of just smelly washing up over and over again, and organising deliveries and things getting broken. It wasn't particularly thrilling, but it was good because it gave me a bit of a sense of, running a business and having to make sure everything was paid for on time and all that stuff. So then on the back of that,
can I just very quickly ask, what was the breakages situation like at weddings? Because there's a lot of drunk people
pretty high on the list. And also beautiful tablecloths that I bought, which were lovely old lace ones, would get ruined with curry and red wine and things. And
so literally bleach was your best friend.
It was my best friend. Did a lot of washing. And that was when my husband said to me, I can't have our kitchen full of
vanished gold.
That or old plates that have had smoked salmon stuck to them for 3 days because they had to come back for the wedding, and then we'd have to stand and wash them all by hand because we couldn't put them in the dishwasher because it's all lovely old crockery. So it was a really grim job.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, there was a very lovely girl who did come and do quite a lot of washing up for me.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, so that then led me to write a book called The Complete Vintage Wedding Guide with my friend Jo Millington, who was an amazing photographer. She was a wedding photographer. And we had this idea one night that we'd write a book about how to style and do a complete vintage wedding. And we did it, and we got a bloody book deal. And she did the photo.
How did you get a book deal for one? Because who did you even contact for that? Because bloody hell, J.K. Rowling, what did she? I mean, I appreciate it.
It was not quite that level.
She's famous though, but she's famous for saying that she pitched, isn't it, 40 different?
Yes, she did.
If not more.
Astonishing, I know.
Before she got picked up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened. Something was happening in the zeitgeist at the time about vintage stuff.
Yes.
Somebody had just brought out a book called The Vintage Tea Party, and it was everywhere.
It was bestseller.
And so I think we just timed it quite, it was sort of the right time.
Did you approach, or do you not even remember? So when was this actually?
I'm very bad at years, but this was probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
9 or 10 years ago. And Joe and I got chatting, this photographer friend of mine got chatting, and I had a friend who worked in publishing, and I said, can we send you something?
Yeah.
And she said, I can sort of ask around. And then somebody said, we'd like to publish it. So we got this deal, and I had to write this book. I'd never written a book in my life. I mean, I didn't, but I actually love reading and writing.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten how much. And we created this book, and I was super proud of it. It was great, but it didn't sell very well.
But I'm guessing also with her, you then had to style the things and take the photography. So that's
great.
The whole styling element there. Yeah.
We did we hired and bought vintage wedding dresses and found models, and we had shoots at Vowood and where else did we do shoots? Loads of amazing places. We styled whole wedding tables. It was a beautiful. I looked at it the other day and I thought, I'm still proud of this. Actually, it was very beautifully done. One of the girls who washed my plates for Pretty Vintage was very beautiful, and she features in the book a lot in gorgeous wedding dresses. So she went from washing it up to supermodel.
To model.
So that was very thrilling and also very confidence building. I look back now and I think I'm not quite sure how that really happened. It was a weird one. What
do you mean? This is you being all womany about it. It happened because you had a good idea and you spoke to the right person.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
You made it happen.
I think what I realised then was that I actually did have a bit more confidence in myself than I thought. So this is what I'm talking about, that I think for a long time I was very lacking in confidence. I didn't really know what my skill set was. And
beyond being creative.
Beyond that, I did, visually being very aware of things and liking putting, the way that things looked. But actually practically using that in any way, I had no idea. And even sourcing the crockery, I was incredibly fussy about it. And I had when I was doing Pretty Vintage, I had a phone call from somebody, and she said, this is so weird, she said, Lady Gaga is having an event in London and she needs 300 cups and saucers in only black and gold, because the event was some kind of
sort of art deco-y
thing.
Yeah, wow.
And so I spent weeks sourcing black and gold crockery, and it went to Lady. I mean, I never saw any of it. They paid a fortune for it. So I did loads of funny things like that.
What happened to it?
God knows. I think they were giving them away. I think that everyone got a gold cup and saucer at the end of the evening.
Sourced by you.
Sourced by Lucy Morris from Pretty Vintage. So some strange things. And then the book came out, and I did some drawing for the book. Little bit of drawing. And I hadn't done any drawing for years.
Wow.
And I thought, I quite like drawing again. Maybe it's time to pick up my pencils.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'd obviously been reading picture books to my children a lot, because, you have your kids and you start revisiting all those wonderful stories, don't you?
Yeah.
So suddenly I was, reading Miffy and Orlando the Marmalade Cat and all these beautiful books that I'd read.
Yeah.
And I again, it was a kind of evolving thing of, well, maybe I've done some writing, and I started drawing again, and I started to think about children's stories, and it felt like a really exciting thing to do, and also I think
organic thing to
very
do
organic.
as well.
The whole thing sort of evolved without my having it particularly any sort of game plan. Really, it just gradually got to this point. Then I found a course. There's an MA in Cambridge at Anglia Ruskin, and it's the Children's Picture Book MA. And I got together some drawings, and I went for an interview, and I got a place, and I couldn't flipping believe that I'd suddenly got this. I was going back to college. And that was about 6 years ago.
Wow. What made you want to do it as an official qualification rather than just having a go at it?
I think I realised that I'd spent so long trying my hand at all these odd things, but each of them in a way had given me a little bit more confidence and a bit of a stepping stone to the next thing, that I felt like right now I think I'm ready to refocus my attention on this actually. And I applied not knowing whether I would get a place, got this place, and then it was like, right, this is, now you've really got to knuckle down. I'm back at college. It was a part-time course because my kids were still quite young.
Absolutely,
or young, you know, still at school. And so I went to Cambridge once a week on the train.
Wow.
And I did lots of drawing, and I wrote lots of picture books. And then everything from there was, I got picked up by an agent, I got a book deal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We can't skip ahead with this, though.
Sorry.
So, once you'd finished that qualification then, how did you get picked up by an agent then?
Actually, it was that. Yes, you're right. We do need to talk about it because it was hard work.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's not...
But you're doing, again, really female, just to kind of...
Yeah, okay, I'll try not to just...
write yourself down.
Yeah,
come on.
So I finished the course, and it was amazing, and the opportunities were amazing because
great place to go and learn.
I mean, honestly, the visiting lecturers were all jobbing children's book writers, in, you know, very successful people who had all got careers. So it began to feel like a really possible thing.
Yeah.
And I had my show at the end, and that was great. And I had a few people come up and say they'd be interested in representing my work. And then that...
like almost like a sort of showcase.
Yeah, we had a big showcase in London.
Okay.
They put on this big thing.
Brilliant.
They also... There's a huge picture book fair in Bologna, which happens every year, so in Italy.
Wow.
And it is the industry children's picture book event.
Wow.
And anybody who wants to have a book published, or any publisher looking for people to publish, everybody is there.
Wow.
So as part of the end of the course, you also get to... There is a stand of
With
the
your
work with everybody's work on it. So we had 3 days in Bologna.
Did you know this beforehand?
Not
so as in you picked the course carefully, or not really? Again, is it quite an organic...
It was a bit organic, but also there isn't much around in the way of courses for children's picture books. It's very specific. There are illustration courses, but this is specifically for children's picture books. So actually it was probably more that it was like this, and it was in Cambridge, so I didn't have to go too far. So the whole thing kind of felt like this was meant to be. And then so Bologna happened, and I had a lot of feedback from Bologna as well, people being interested, but nothing concrete happened. And I began to think, maybe this isn't going to happen. And everybody else was getting book deals left, right and centre from the course.
It always feels like
that,
doesn't it?
I felt like this isn't going to happen for me. So there's a lot of up and downs along the way, and you know, I cried a lot on the course. Spent a lot of time having to stand up in front of people and show them my work and be upset and think this is shit, and you know, so it was a big emotional journey for me to go back to drawing, because it had been a long time. And I guess, you know, creativity like that, where you're literally putting things on paper from nowhere, it's very personal, and it can feel very... you feel incredibly vulnerable doing it. And so it was hard as well. You know, as I say, I did a lot of crying too, as well as, you know, celebrating the wins, but it was hard. And then I sent my work off to lots of agents, and when I almost got to the end of the list and I was thinking maybe this isn't going to happen, I got this email from a lady in America who said, "I love your work, I would like to represent you." And I was just like, oh my God,
America as well.
Yeah, which was very exciting. Turns out she was the agent for lots of really big people in children's book publishing. So I was like, this is very exciting. She was wonderful and very quickly got me a 2-book deal with Bloomsbury. So,
oh my God, wow.
Which happened very fast. It was like she said, I'm going to send your story out. I'd done a story called The Song for Everyone, which was my final piece for college, and she said, I'm going to send this out. And within a week she rang me and said, I've got 2 people who are interested, and they offered on it. So it's
fated.
But I cannot stress to you how much, like, I'm 51 now. I was 44, I think, when this happened. I had spent my whole life feeling like I'm going to make me cry. That feeling like I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got no skills. What am I doing? And so it felt like I had this was like, this is it.
Gosh.
So it was amazing. Amazing. What transpired was my books didn't sell as well as they wanted them to in America. Because they had this plan for me. They thought, this was going to be...
You're going to be some cutesy, British, English, quintessentially English.
Yeah, and things like in my deal, it was where if you get onto the New York bestsellers list and all this stuff, and I was thinking, what? That's like... But what happened was that because they didn't sell brilliantly, my agent said to me, actually, I'm going to let you go. So having got this incredible agent who was like,
This was after 4 years then?
This was after 4 or 5 years. As I said, my time scale's not brilliant, but this was not very long ago. My final book came out in 2023.
Right.
And then she basically dropped me.
Right.
So it was a big high and then a massive crashing low. That was a big learning curve for me. And actually, I've just been speaking with a new agent who is interested. So things are, it's up and down. So it's an interesting one, that, for me. I've really had to pull myself up by the, bootstraps and think, right, come on, you can still do this.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean that you're a failure. This doesn't mean that... And just to mention that in the middle of all of this, I took on the shop.
Well, oh my God. I heard that in about 5 minutes ago. Don't forget to ask about the shop.
Which I won't waffle on about for ages.
No, I do need to know about the shop. So where did the shop come into this then?
My mum had the shop for 42 years before me.
God. So when was this though?
This
How
was
long ago?
3 years ago.
Okay, so you were still in the deal. Books
were happening.
In your head, you were going for it.
This is me going from doing very little with my time for years to let's do everything.
Hang on, you've got 3 kids. That's not doing little. Juggling 3 kids.
But I think, in terms of like work and career, I think I felt like I'd got a lot to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Spent so long not knowing what I was doing that it felt like, right, come on, let's take it all on. So I took on the shop and I completely have fallen in love with it. And actually, it kind of what saved me when I lost my agent and I felt so demoralised and devastated. Coming to the shop and getting my head out of picture books and into this instead was just like a balm, because it was I could forget about that stuff. Just think about nice things and selling nice stuff in the shop.
Beautiful shop.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
So I love it.
Beautiful building, beautiful shop, and I bet you just get lovely people.
We get lovely people in who come back and back.
I know.
People whose children have come to the shop. People who came when they were little now bring their kids into the shop and say, I used to come in here and get my pocket money toys and remember my mum. And so there's this huge, it's like a huge cuddle, that place. It really is. Honestly, people come in and just say, oh, this is magical. And you feel like, I don't know, it's very old-fashioned. It's quite quiet. We do things quite slowly. We're not, it's not Tesco's. So it's all everything's wrapped carefully. There's a lot of chatting. People tell me their stories.
And it's really individual, isn't it? You can tell, having just obviously I didn't spend too long down there because I literally I'd bankrupt myself in the shop. It's just it's my dream shop. But even looking around, everything has been really carefully acquired, isn't it? Like your product selection's really specific and very careful, and that really comes across. I'm not just saying that, I wouldn't say anything.
No, that's lovely of you to say. And actually, I think in a way, it all feeds back to the same thing, which is that I think my strengths, perhaps, that I didn't even know about, were that I just have a very strong visual sense about everything. Yeah. And so when I'm in the shop, I know exactly what I want it to look like. I know the cards I want to sell. I know, and if I haven't found, when I find them, I know. I don't have to spend a lot of time thinking, oh, I'm not sure about that. I tend to have quite a clear.
Your instincts are in full play. But I need to very quickly ask though, how did your mum set that shop up then?
The shop's been open since 1936. And it hasn't closed apart from during COVID, when she shut the doors, obviously, because of lockdown. But she came in here with my brother when he was about 5. I think, one of my older brothers.
Yeah.
And he broke something came into the shop,
when someone else ran it.
A very stern lady, Elizabeth, ran it, and she was very cross with my mum because Nathan had broken this thing. And my mum was devastated because she loved the shop. She used to pop in sometimes. And she plucked up the courage to go back and ask. She said, I didn't want to go back because I felt so bad, but I had to pay for this thing. Anyway, she plucked up the courage, she went back and asked for a Saturday job. And even though Elizabeth had been cross with her, she said, all right, I'll take you on as a Saturday girl. So she
even though she was a mum?
And she was a mum, but so she was just doing Saturdays because my dad was working at the art college, so he could have the kids on a Saturday. And so she did Saturdays, and then Elizabeth needed to retire. And so my mum said, maybe I could buy it from you. So she did. And that was that.
And this was
42 years ago. 43 perhaps now. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to ask you my 3 final questions so I can let you get back.
Go on.
Is there anything else, though, I guess, about publishing or illustrate, anything that you do that you think we haven't covered that would be quite helpful?
The one thing I would say is be tenacious.
Ooh.
Do not give up.
Yeah.
That thing you said about J.K. Rowling, and I know that's famous, that story, isn't it?
Yeah.
But actually, if you want to do this or any kind of publishing or anything where you have to keep sending your work to people and you're going to get a lot of rejections, you just gotta find the welly to keep going. I think that was a big one for me.
And it's about self-belief, isn't it? Which, as we're saying, when you're also carrying imposter syndrome,
it's very difficult.
Sometimes those voices are like,
but you just keep bashing away because I think I really nearly gave up because I thought, oh, nobody's interested, and then suddenly there was this email. And recently I was thinking, this is never going to happen for me, and an email dropped into my account last week, we're interested in your work. You just got to keep putting yourself out there. So I think that would be the only thing we haven't talked about, is just keep sticking at it. And that's not just for children's books, that's for anything where you have to be putting your neck on the line a lot.
In which case, my 3 final questions.
Yes.
Question 1, and this would be quite interesting for you.
Okay.
What advice would you give to your younger self? Could be any version of your younger self, but knowing what you know now, what would you say?
Cool, that's hard. I suppose the obvious thing would be to believe in yourself, because I think that was the thing I lacked. And it wasn't. I was a bit directionless, but I don't think I had a sense of myself enough. And so I think just be patient and believe in yourself, because it will happen. And I think that's something that I see a lot in other women, my friends, that it's taken them some time.
The second question then is, what do you think 75-year-old Lucy would say to you now? To your older self, what would she say to you now?
Oh, I think she'd say, flippin' heck, well done, you got there in the end.
Yeah.
And I think I really genuinely do feel like I am the happiest that I've been
in yourself.
In myself.
Yeah.
In terms of like my sense of who I am, how I navigate the world, what I think is important, the way that I look after myself, is much better now than it's ever been. And I genuinely think I would, unless something goes horribly wrong,
in which case
she says you should never have stepped out in front of that truck, I would say well done for holding your nerve, because I think it took a lot of up and down, Lucy.
You've rode it out
to get to this bit, and I probably should touch wood because but I feel like it's there are things in my life which are hard work and difficult. Raising teenagers is flipping difficult, and yet I do feel like I get up in the morning, I want to come to work, I sit at home and I sit at my desk drawing, and I think,
as your daughter said, you go to the gym,
and I go to the gym a lot, and I love that, and it makes me feel good, which I never did when I was younger. I just didn't eat, and now I actually eat and go to the gym instead. All that stuff. There's a lot of stuff which I think as you grow up and gain a bit of wisdom, I feel like I'd be quite nice to myself if I was 75.
Do you know what? That comes up a lot, and with women, your older self would be proud of you, is what you're basically saying.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which basically means you're proud of you.
Yes.
But you just can't say it in a roundabout.
So
it's a roundabout way of saying it,
I'm
isn't
proud
it?
of myself, yes.
Okay, then the final question is always just a mantra that you live and die by, or a saying, a thing, if Lucy had a t-shirt, what would it be?
Be kind to myself.
Yeah.
Actually, it would. I mean, I know it's been said so many times before. I think kindness is the thing.
Oh.
It's the thing for yourself, and it's the thing for other people. That's it.
Kindness and decency.
Something to do with that. I don't know what the mantra is, and the other thing is, it's just got something to do with knitting, because that's all I do now. Is sit in the evening, watch telly, and knit.
Stop it! I love that. Is there wine involved?
No, not anymore. I used to be a lot of wine involved, but
now just tea.
It's just tea, knitting, kitten on my lap.
You're living the dream.
That's a weird dream, but yeah.
It's my dream.
Is it? I love it.
That.
I'm in bed by 8:30.
Yeah. On that note, thank you very much. If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and/or this role, then please go to our website www.twerk.org. The link is in this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.